everyone, and welcome to the work session and special meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Ossining for February 6, 2018. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I forgot. If we could all remain standing for one more minute. We lost a dear friend this week, David Swope. He was a champion of all things Ossining, and he was a generous supporter of many of our organizations, specifically those related to education, open space, and the environment. David was an inspiration to so many of us, and he will be dearly missed. Please join me in a moment of silence to remember our good friend David Swope. Thank you. We're having chair struggles. I can't. Okay, so we're going to start off tonight with our star-studded work session. And I will invite our first guest up to the podium for our first topic. Our friend Ron Kamen from Earthkind Energy via Sustainable Westchester is here for two topics tonight. Starting with a conversation about an intermunicipal agreement which will make it easier for member municipalities to purchase energy-efficient vehicles, charging stations, and lawn maintenance equipment, among other objects of interest, at better rates than would be available to us if we were to go it alone on the open market. Hi, Ron.
Hi, good evening. How's it going, guys? Hey, it's a pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you back.
Always great to be here.
Okay. So you're going to talk to us first a little bit about the intermunicipal agreement and what benefits it would accrue.
Great. Accrue?
Accrue?
Accrue? Yeah, accrue. Okay.
Yeah.
So as you guys know, Sustainable Westchester is the 43 municipalities, pretty much all you guys, all the villages, towns, cities, and the county itself in Westchester. And by bringing everybody together, we are able to aggregate purchasing power. And we're doing that with electric, with Westchester Power, where 100,000 people have now saved $9 million collectively. Not bad. The Solarize campaigns that we do, which have collectively now done 5 million watts of solar and gotten discounts on that. And we've been starting to do that with electric vehicles and other equipment, including green landscaping equipment. So the whole thing behind the intermunicipal agreement is it just makes it easier to do that as we continue to evolve the programs with both vehicles and charging stations, and then the green landscaping equipment and other ways of both saving money and reducing the impact on our environment.
Great. Well, you had sent, or at least Sustainable Westchester had shared with us a copy of a proposed intermunicipal agreement.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think a resolution
Yes,
also to adopt such agreement.
Yes, ma'am.
We have since shared that with our council. Christy, if you want to just talk for
May I just comment for a moment? I'm so sorry, because there were a couple of things that both your council and another council raised, and then some other things that we have decided to just bring it back for a little bit, thanks to your comments and some others. There were a couple of tweaks that need to be done, so we're going to send you a new one. Okay, so if you would, we could just skip that part because we're going to send you another one, and then Christy can comment on that one and give you her feedback on it. There was one typo, and then there was a couple of things that we're going to just clarify, so it's just simpler and easier to understand.
And I do think one of the typos led to a question that we had to ask our insurance agent, who said, yeah, that doesn't sound great, and it was just a typo, so we think that we're going to be in better shape with the next round of this
Exactly.
agreement. Okay.
So.
And I think Bedford already adopted the...
Bedford adopted it. We're going to bring it back to them and have them
modify it. I was going to say they adopted the less perfect IMA.
Yeah, your council is a little sharper. No, I mean, sorry, no, they were fine. There was just one typo and a couple of things that needed clarification. Yeah. So it's
hopefully
great.
They're not watching. Exactly.
I know, right? Sorry.
Okay.
This is like with the other IMAs. This is something where all the municipalities have to adopt the same one, right? In order for you guys to have this.
It would do.
Okay.
Yeah, it just makes it easier. Yeah, exactly. So, yep. So, okay.
All right. So, does anybody have any questions for Ron about I don't think I shared the intermunicipal agreement since we went first to our council with it before we went anyplace else. So, when we get it into a shape for the board to see, then everybody can take a look. But in theory and concept, just, if you guys have any questions about aggregating purchasing through Sustainable Westchester. I know that there have been some questions just since one of the ways that we have aggregated purchasing was for electricity. And I think I mentioned that there have been some questions about Constellation and the letter that they sent out. And we've spoken with Westchester Power, Sustainable Westchester about it. Westchester Power actually has an explanation now up on their website because what Constellation Energy was required by New York State to send out a list of what the breakdown is of all of the energy supply. We opted in to 100% renewable energy sources, and if you look at what Constellation's listed, it doesn't look like that, but that's because of the RECs, the renewable energy credits that are being used by Ossining electricity purchasers. So we're going to hear more about that at our town hall meeting. Dan Welsh is going to be joining us on March 20th to talk more about that. But just in terms of, that's one of those sorts of things that might come up as a question about what types of equipment,
Sure.
what are the benefits? You talked to us a little bit about the benefit of electric vehicles. We purchased one, or at least one, at one point. We have electric charging stations, which we're going to talk a little bit about in a minute with you, that are going to be coming to our parks. And then we have the potential to purchase, a little bit, some of this landscaping equipment. You want to talk a little bit about some of that?
Sure. We could do a whole thing on it. And actually, if you have anybody that's really interested, we'd love to get a representative that can work with us to work this out. But basically, what a lot of people have found is that mowers, both hand and rider mowers, the blowers, all that types of equipment, when you take a look, they're really polluting. They're actually very high pollutants. And not only are they polluting in terms of emissions, which are very bad, especially for people that are living and working near them, but in addition, the sound is really loud. And you look at the electric equipment, and it's cleaner, and it's quieter, and it actually saves you a pile of money, too. So if you look at a 60-inch mower, you save between $3,000 and $4,000 a year by using the electric versus the other one. So there's a way of saving money, having a positive impact on the environment, and improving the quality of life. So, and again, you guys won't be obligated to do anything. You get to choose what you want to participate in, what you want to purchase any particular time. It just offers you an option. And again, we'd love to have somebody represent you as part of this whole process that we're developing with all the 43 municipalities.
So, since you have so many municipalities you're introducing this to, do you have examples that the Parks Department and cemetery can try and ride and use?
Yeah.
I mean, can you just have one of each available for, each of the communities to try and see if they like it? I mean, I think they'd like a hands-on demonstration.
Yeah, we did a demonstration in our offices about 3 months or so ago before it got a little too cold to do rider mowers outside when it was actually nice. But yeah, actually, we'll be bringing them back, whatever you guys want to do for sure. And there's some that already have some that are putting into place. So some of the blowers are already out there in various municipalities, so you can take a field trip to them. Or if you want to, if you'd like to come and actually try it and nobody has that particular piece, we'll get them to bring one and have you guys try it. Absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to let our foreman and park cemetery superintendent try.
Right, and also, we'd obviously be looking at as our equipment
Ages out.
If we're not ready to replace it, then we're not just gonna.
I just want to ask
Well, we were talking so much about the possibly passing a leaf blower law, and I would like to see what an electric leaf blower is like, and if that's a reasonable ask for the community or not. I'd like to actually experience one before I'm making laws about it.
Yeah, it'd be
Well,
great.
I'd-
I
I'd
think we'll
like
do. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
question. Sorry. Like your mower, for instance, it's a riding mowers that you
Yeah.
Well, how it must have batteries.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how many hours?
Depending on the model you choose, but they're hours worth, and it's a working mower for a working person that's actually doing it. So it'll go 8 hours, but you may have to charge during a lunch break or something, depending upon the type that you get and how often you're using it and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean they're it's amazing how the technology has come.
And the weed whackers and things of that nature all have battery packs.
Yeah, exactly. And some are you can even get them with like a backpack, which is a heavy duty battery, right? That lasts longer, or you can get the one that's handheld. So there's some choices.
Do you have pictures?
We got some pictures. Yeah, I don't have any with me now, but we do have pictures. And again, we have some in our office actually. And if you guys say, yeah, we're really interested, we'll set up another demonstration and do some more.
I'd like
So.
to see some of the
Sure.
literature before we do.
Yeah,
Or a
absolutely.
demonstration.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Any other questions about this intermunicipal agreement that we might enter into if it looks good?
Hey, it doesn't limit us to buying from them. It just says
Does
we
not.
can buy from them. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Give us an option.
Okay, as long as Christy likes it.
Okay, so the next thing that we wanted Ron to talk with us a little bit about is all of you know that we purchased 3 electric vehicle charging stations to put in Cedar Lane, Ryder, and Engle Park. And once we're right now doing preliminary preparations, we had to pull electric permits and a couple of other things, and so other work needs to be done to before we can actually install them. But once they're installed and we're actually shooting to unveil or cut the ribbon on the one at Engle Park for Earth Day, fingers crossed, because it would be wonderful. We want to make sure that we have any signage that we need and any agreement or set any fees that we want to set for charging, that we all agree what those are, so that we can be ready to rock and roll when they're up and running. So we invited Ron to just talk to us a little bit about that, make any recommendations that maybe you have from seeing what's worked in other communities, what's best to encourage people to use them, but not have their vehicle sitting there all the day long, and also just maybe talk a little bit about how long it might take a vehicle to charge, and et cetera.
Okay, great. So several things. One is the type of equipment you guys got are intimately reprogrammable. So basically you just go online and you can change whatever you decide on later on. And that's kind of what I would recommend, is that you have an approach that evolves over time. And that when you take a look, one of the things is that what I believe, and I recommend that you do at first, is seek to attract people to just come and know that they're there. Because the first thing is that you're just getting them. Not that many people are that familiar with the technology yet, and you guys are, but not everybody is. So what I think you might want to consider is having these stations that are available for a certain period of time, for a year and maybe longer, but for the first year, just make them free for 2 or 3 hours. Depending upon whether you want people to be there for 2 or 3 hours. The other piece that it does, by the way, too, is once you plug them in, you can activate, you guys, a text messaging, so that if someone's coming along and they're waiting for that spot and that spot has been there and they're fully charged, it sends a text to the person who's charged that someone's waiting, and please come and move as soon as you can. So you can activate that feature, and I recommend that you do that, so people who, if you do get a line, now you have the ability for people to come in and move out. So what I think you want to do is attract people to start noticing that these things are there, to pay attention that they're there. So for the first, again, either 2 or 3 hours, I would say have it be free for at least the first year. That way people will know, in particular down by the waterfront, they'll come, they'll go to the restaurant, they'll plug in, go to the restaurant for a couple of hours, they'll come back, and then after either 2 or 3 hours, and I think maybe 3 hours is the right number, at that point then either charge or they have to move. One or the other. Either charge them so that after 3 hours they have to pay a fee and make it like $5. Basically, it's like if you go over the 3 hours, boom, $5 for the next hour, and then have it go on so that you don't have them sitting there all day. So different communities do different things, and then I think what you might want to do after a year or about a year is take a look, because you'll be getting reports of how many people are coming, how often they're charging, how long they're charging, are the same people coming back, are there new people coming in? What you really want to do is, it goes up on an app, right? So what happens is that people are looking and they're like, oh, I can go over here and get a charge. Oh, there's a restaurant there. I'll go there and do some business and do the restaurant and everything else. So it kind of attracts a new clientele to some of your downtown businesses. So
Or they can come hear a concert at the concert series, for example.
exactly, that's the kind of idea.
Okay. So, so in other words, so the way that the technology would work is somebody would have to plug in, for example, a credit card or a charge point account or whatever it is
Yep,
that
they have to have an account. Yep.
and it would take their information and then it would start charging at the 3 hour mark if that's how we
No,
had
no,
it
no.
set up.
No, they'll come. They'll charge. I would recommend that what you do is you let them charge for free.
Free, right.
For you, and so you'll pay
Right.
the electric, but it's only a couple bucks, basically, for
And then
2 or
if
3
they
hours.
didn't move it at that 3 hour mark.
But if they didn't move it at the 3 hour mark, yeah, then boom. Then,
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah. No, it takes. Yeah, basically they can't start charging
Right.
unless you have their account information.
Right, again, so it'll be free for the first, whatever, 3 hours, and
Exactly.
then you start charging. So how much charge do they get in that 3 hours?
So it's basically 7 kW, so it's 21 kilowatt hours, about 20 kilowatt hours, call it, which is enough to go about 80 miles.
Okay. So that's pretty good. So if they came down from 45 minutes away, they could get
Yeah.
back to wherever that is
Yeah.
if they. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
Is there these text alerts that you're talking about? Is there a charge to the municipality for that?
No.
Okay.
That's
So
all included. That's all included in
the whole
your
package?
service package. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Is there any signage that people put
Yep,
up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And yep, we can give you examples, and you guys could choose what works for you. But first decide your policy.
Right.
And again, I would say for the first year, it's free for the first, let's say, 3 hours.
Right.
Put that up on the side. You have to be plugged in, so it's electric vehicles only while plugged and charging, which is good. So that way, if they do get a charge and it's full, they should have to move it. Activate that. If somebody calls you and they're waiting, move your vehicle if you're charged.
Okay.
But yeah, basically, you'll have that sign. It'll have some small print, but then it'll have some bigger print too. So.
Okay.
Is there any danger in this? Is plugging this in and unplugging?
Great question. Yeah, great question. No. But the reason why is that what happens is that the handle is both electric power to it, but there's first information that flows back to where the power actually is, and unless you're in and plugged in, that's it. As soon as the plug comes out, the power gets shut off back here, so there's no live electric.
So pumping gas.
Right. Similar. Right. Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Without the gas.
Without the gas. No gas.
Okay.
Do the charging stations require a lot of maintenance?
Nope. Very low. Very low. And again, it's all online. And what you guys got is you got a 5-year bumper to bumper warranty, so 100%. And it's 99% guaranteed uptime. So if something goes wrong, there's a signal gets sent, and then the charging company is supposed to come out and fix it, and they're guaranteeing you 99% uptime. So.
Is it ever like, say, one of our local restaurants wants to sponsor the amount of electricity that it costs? I know it's only a few dollars, but could one of them say, 6 degrees, first 3 hours free, sponsored by 3 Westerly, or
Sure.
6 degrees of, and is there a way to keep track of how much was charged and stuff like that?
Yep.
So one of the local, okay. And the other question is, does Sustainable Westchester have a list of all the charging stations that are currently available and will be available so that people, know
The map.
if
Yes,
we
ma'am.
want to, if Green Austin wants to start encouraging more people to have the cars, being able to say, well, look, here are all the charging stations that are available in the area, and this is next to a park, and this is next to a
Exactly.
restaurant. I mean,
Yeah.
that would be really nice to be able to give to our townspeople if
Yep.
on request.
Yeah, sure. It's both online, and then we can print out copies for you too if you'd like.
But I think that
It's New York State
we're
that keeps it
working
on.
on trying to develop some kind of a better app or something like that.
Yeah, there's a number of different apps, but New York State's also keeping one now. The Department of
ChargePoint also has one, right?
ChargePoint has one for exactly, and then it was the U.S. Department of Energy, but they seem to be cutting back on some things. So I don't know if we can count on them so much, but yeah, there's definitely a bunch of different ways. So, and there is a list, and it's constantly being updated, which is great. So.
Is there any feeling on the subject of this 2 versus 3 hours? I mean, 3 hours sounds about right to me, but does anybody have an opinion on that?
I figure if you're sitting down for dinner, 2-ish, so 3
Yeah, I
hours
think-
probably.
And then you also
I don't know, the
think about how
riverfront,
many-
I
how
feel
many
like there'll be
how
more
much
people
mileage they
wanting
get.
to use it, so I'd almost want to go less there, and either way, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so that's fine.
Good to you.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's up to you guys, but that's what I would recommend. Just as and again, you can change it later, right? All you have to do is change the sign and then change the program. So.
Okay. Do we have to adopt anything special, do you think, to institute this
I mean,
local law? Do we have to?
it's not a local law, is it? I don't think
I'm
so.
asking you that
It's an
question.
amenity.
No, I
No?
mean, I don't think you're adopting a local law with respect to this. You already purchased the stations, and it's just a matter of getting them up and
Setting
running.
a fee.
Mhm.
So we're just setting.
So it would be something
Okay.
that goes in the fee schedule.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Fantastic. Do we have any more questions for Mr. Keenan about anything else that we want to talk to him about? He's so smiley and ready to talk to us about everything.
Dana, do we have the-
It's a short life. You gotta enjoy it. Don't you think? I think. So.
Energy costs.
electricity costs, the new estimate?
Sure. So it would be like if you had the full 3 hours at 20
No,
kilo.
no, no, no.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm talking about CCA.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry
It's
about that.
April.
Oh, sorry about
Okay, I'm just
No.
wondering if we have any estimates
We
or
don't have any-
thoughts or,
that. Oh,
you know.
the only number that I know for sure is that altogether, you guys, the 100,000 of you saved $9 million total.
Okay.
Those are the numbers that Dan just calculated out. So which isn't bad. So yeah.
But you were going to answer a different question, which was the cost of electricity for charging stations.
Oh
that's
yeah,
what-
so so first, I think that the first challenge is going to be so the vehicles are coming, right? But they're not quite here yet, right? So all of Westchester right now has about 1,700 according to the Department of Motor Vehicles, right? So all over Westchester right now is about 1,700. So how many of them are going to know that you guys got a charging station and they're going to come to do that, right? So it's going to be a few to start with. So part of it, I think, is just awareness that it's there. And I think by having it free, you'll start attracting people who will be like, I'm going to go to the park. Oh, I'll bring my electric vehicle. Oh, I'll go down to the waterfront and I'll do a restaurant and I'll plug in and I'll get a free charge while I'm doing it. And they'll start getting that sort of attraction. So I don't anticipate that you're going to have that high a volume usage at first. And I think you could track it too. And if you start seeing that it's a lot, then you can decide at whatever point that you'd like to change it. But if you did a full charge, one vehicle, a full charge for that 3 hours, it's like $3, $4. So, okay.
Got it. All right. And are we now done? Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Always a pleasure. Let me know what else I can
Thank you
do.
so
Have a
much.
great night. Good luck with the rest of your meeting.
Stay
Yeah.
home tomorrow.
Thanks a
or
lot.
tonight, so that you stay home tomorrow. Okay. All right. So next, I would like to invite the Honorable Suzanne Donnelly to join us. Sue is wearing a different hat tonight than one you might have been used to seeing her in behind this camera, as she took over as station manager for Greater Ossining TV, also known as GoTV, in 2017. Sue has done a great job reinvigorating the GoTV board, overseeing staff, and bringing new programming to our public access stations. We invited Sue here tonight to give an update on how things are going and let us know what's next.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So I just want to give you a brief history of Greater Ossining Television. In March 1997, Greater Ossining Television was incorporated as a 501c3 to establish, maintain, and operate a community access center, and more importantly, for public access channel that allows community members to have a place to air programming that they believe is relevant to their community. Our Constitution gives us the right of freedom of speech, and part of the agreements with the cable companies was always to have 3 dedicated channels. So it's both Cablevision or Optimum or whatever it's called this week, and also Fios. So the 3 stations are the government station, which allows all government meetings that are videoed. In the case of the town of Ossining, that is channel 78 on Optimum and Cablevision, and channel 43 on Fios. In the case of Optimum and Cablevision, in the parts of the town of Ossining that could not see their town meetings because the village of Briarcliff Manor was given the same channel in Cablevision as their government channel, and did not seem interested in airing the town meetings. After much discussion, Optimum Cablevision allowed the town to put the meetings onto the public access station too, which was very important. We continue to air the Town of Ossining legislative and work sessions, as well as the planning board meetings on the public access station. At this time, no other land use board meetings are videotaped by the town, correct? Okay. Oh, you
Zoning's
are
not.
taping zoning now?
Zoning's not.
No, zoning has never been, but it's, yeah, I know, yeah. Educational station comes out of the high school, and while in the early years the government and schools shared the studio at the high school, it became a security issue with people walking through the building, as well as the high school expanding their educational options. So around the same time, Cablevision closed the studio in their Ossining location, and this kind of left public access without a home. Public access television is a station where freedom of speech reigns supreme. Folks are encouraged to create their own programming and where activities of the community are videoed, taped, and aired. The cable companies collect fees from their subscribers, which pays for the franchise fees and the PEG money, which is PEG is Public Access Education and Government, that is given to the different communities. There are restrictions as to what you can spend these funds on. PEG money must be spent on capital items such as outfitting studio space, cameras and the peripherals, office equipment, and items like that. While the funds go to the municipality, it is not taxpayer funds, but rather the subscriber fees that pay for anything that Cablevision, that go to your public access, which happens to be GoTV, uses. I think that's very important that we understand that it's not taxpayer dollars. They also, in the past, in the many municipalities pass the franchise fees and the PEG money directly on to the not-for-profit organizations. This was done in Ossining at the very beginning. In 2006, Ossining determined that it would change the way they handled these fees. From that point on, the village and town, which always shared the cost of the equipment and what have you, decided that they would they would buy the equipment, which they could get at a better cost than just going out and buying it, and they would pay for the public access. They would pay the GoTV for the use of the videographers at their meetings and stuff, instead of just handling them bucks of money. It has worked out fine. We encourage that to stay that way. We have no problems with that at all. We are honored to supply the services to the town and village of Ossining. Not only do we video meetings, but also special projects like the Halloween festivals, and also projects that we don't charge back to the community, which is like the tree lighting and the Hanukkah and a lot of little activities that happen around town. Here are just a few of the activities that we're working on in 2018. IFCA is celebrating their 50th anniversary, and one of the shows that we're putting together and is in the final stage of editing, of course, is a show about decorating some of their newer apartments and how you can do it on a shoestring. Local business people, Kaya Gam, has given her services and her decorating services. IFCA has supplied a ton of labor to do this. We supplied the videographers to tape this thing. So this should be a very exciting program when it comes out. We're kind of referring to it a little bit like Property Sisters, because it's two women that did it. But it's amazing the different sources that they use to get the equipment and the furniture and stuff. And when you see it, and if you got an opportunity to go see these apartments, they were done fantastically. And I congratulate IFCA on getting this building up and running as they do so many.
So is this going to be a new series that we need to tune into?
Yes. Well,
We're going to see
let's
a new
see.
apartment every week?
It's
Or
it's not going to be a new apartment every week.
Okay.
It's almost we're actually just finishing up the taping of that, and the taping is a gentleman moving into his apartment, and that will be the final of that series. It will be the end of that series.
We're working on course. Here's an idea for raising money: is that you could, do a raffle for $5 or something like that, and whoever wins the raffle could get a free
Apartment?
consultation.
Yeah.
Consultation. Makeover. Thank you.
Okay, so I have to say that Kelly and Kaya did a lot of work, and Kelly was extremely pregnant through the whole thing too. So it was pretty exciting. Also this year, we have the 120th anniversary of the Ossining Library. So we're going to be part of all their celebrations. The first one starts this Saturday. We'll be videotaping the opening ceremonies and what have you of the Ossining Library, and they have asked us to do all their special events that are appropriate for filming as a video. Another one we have had, because of what we spent the last summer, so we took over formally Ossining Television, Greater Ossining Television in June, end of May last year. So the first thing we ever did was go out and film the Village Fair, which was a treat unto itself. And we made sure we hit every booth. We made sure we had this unbelievable. We learned a lot about having shows that are only like a half an hour, 45 minutes, not these 3-hour shows. But we've learned a lot. And what we've done since then, and we spent the whole summer videotaping all the concert series at the waterfront and also anything that happened around town, so that people get out there and know that there is great opportunities of what you can see and do. And if you can't go to it, you can look at it on TV. Because people today do not necessarily have, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but have cable, they don't subscribe to a cable, we also put everything we have on our own YouTube channel, out of necessity. So one of the things that it has also done, it has had a multitude of people come forward and want to do programming for us. Again, freedom of speech. We do not tell people what they should do their shows about, but it is extremely interesting what people are coming ahead and doing. Number one, which is live right now, is we are now airing Monday through Friday the show Democracy Now! And Democracy Now! Is a show that's done in Manhattan. It is on probably half of the Westchester public access television stations, and it's all over New York State. And we have this lovely local volunteer that comes in every day and loads the show on, because that's the biggest problem that you have. How do you schedule this? How do you have somebody go in and actually put it on the scheduler that you have, which you have to physically go? We'll get to a point where you can do it super remotely, but we're not at that point yet. We also had, but I do want to tell people that Democracy Now! Has 4 pages of the communities that they're in. So it will be available on our Facebook page too. We have had a couple come to us who are recently retired, and they want to do a show. One is a bank vice president, and his wife was a big consultant, and they want to tell us the do's and don'ts of retirement and how we can go about doing it the right way and the choices that you have. And as many of us baby boomers slowly get into the age of retirement, Medicare, and all the other things, it's important to know. They're going to have a series of different episodes, let's call them, and with titles similar to the psychology of being a retiree, when should you retire, healthcare needs and the impact on retirement, the financial side of Medicare, scams that target retirees, and brain health, evaluating it and protecting it. So they're putting together very thorough programming setups they're doing, and we're doing this particular show in conjunction with Pleasantville Public Access Television. And so together it shows how the communities work together, because it's not all about us filming the stuff. You can go out, you can borrow cameras from us and go out and film your own shows, or you can have it filmed. We have a lot of stuff that comes into us, like the Democracy Now! Program too, that it comes into us and we just put it up on we schedule it on our thing.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
How do you or you may be getting to this later, how do you decide what airs when on the public access channel, and also how does somebody apply? Are you going to get to that anyway?
I will, and I can because I'll just briefly talk about these other 2 programs that are coming up, and then I'll talk about that.
Okay.
So another one that we're actually going to film out of the library is called Money, Emotion, and How We Handle It. And it is to teach people how to handle money. We have a woman that is a coach. She's a money coach, and she wants to and these are donated times, by the way. People are donating their services to do these experts and everything, which is phenomenal. It is such a learning experience to do this whole Greater Ossining Television, because you get to meet even more people than you already thought you knew through the town and the village. So she's going to do a program on handling money, and she does it a lot for spouses. I don't want to say women, but spouses that don't handle the money and something happens. A death happens or a divorce happens, and suddenly they have all these bills and they don't really even know how to handle the bills and stuff. So she's going to do that. Some of her topics are money in motion. We all have it. We all have emotions about money, whether we think we do or not. And want to start saving. This is how you do it. 3 rules of saving and getting yourself out of debt, which is a big problem, and that's a worrisome thing for people. And then funding college basics and different topics that she's putting together. So as you can see, people have done detailed outlines of their shows too, which I find amazing. Another young man has come to us. He is just he recently moved to Ossining, he and his wife, and they bought a house and they're going to be starting a family. And he wants to do a show on prison reform and talking about different aspects of, with Sean Pica from Hudson Link, and different aspects about prison life, and also the whole thing about charging young people on crimes and how we should handle that better. He's very excited to get started, but as you can see, a lot of these we need space. We need our studio, which right now is over at the Operations Center. It's a work in progress, as I refer to it constantly. So these are just a couple of examples of people that have come forward. Now you asked the question of how do we decide? Anyone. We are obliged to put anything on public access television, okay, because it's your television station. So we can do one of 3 ways. We can come out and film with you. We can have you give us a CD, and in the olden days, I'll call them the olden days, and Tom, the videographer right behind me right now, remembers them well. He used to get a stack of different CDs or whatever the media was at that time of different programmings that were put up on the public access television station. So you can do that. You can request that we film a show, or I said that before, and then or you can get some show like the Democracy Now!, a pre-made show that, just tell us that it's on a lot of public access television, because we're kind of new at the rules and regulations. But because it is public access, you control, the community controls the programming. As far as scheduling, we're a perpetual work in progress. But we went from having 3 shows, we ended up at, besides the town meetings, thank God, we had 3 other shows on public access TV. We had Spanish Mass, we had Dear Sandy, and we had Star Power Hour at Star Bethlehem Church. Those were our shows. So, of course, they were on multiple times. So we're all learning how to program. We're learning how to, like, Democracy Now! Is always on at 9 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock at night, except on Thursdays, because our predetermined slot time for town meetings was 9 o'clock on Thursday morning. So we weren't going to change other predetermined schedules. So as stuff comes in, we constantly meet. We have 3 on-staff videographers and 1 consultant videographer. We have a board of 5 members who are very active in it. And what we do is we meet, we talk about the scheduling, we talk about how we can improve the scheduling, and we are always open for all suggestions, because I will tell you that we are all learning how to do this better. So it's exciting, and there's a lot more stuff on it. And then what it happens is you go to lulls around the holidays. You have a couple of lulls, and so there's less programming on it right now than there might have been in November, but now it's starting to pick up again, and these people are coming forward to do their shows, so that will be pretty exciting.
We cable cast from the recreation center still?
So we schedule, yes, we schedule. Our scheduling machines are referred to as the closets. Yeah, they're in a closet in the recreation department, the community center, And our young lady volunteer goes there every day at 2 o'clock and does her Democracy Now! Tom goes over there once to twice a week and looks, and there's a basket. If anybody wants to give us a show, we ask that it be on a thumb drive. It used to be on a CD, but we ask that it be on a thumb drive. And we can give you any information as to if you don't have the right format, we may have to take it somewhere and format it again. But what we do is there's a basket right around the corner of the front desk, and it says Go TV on it. You drop your show in there. Tom or somebody takes it, and they put it on the scheduler.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the top level at the Joseph Caputo.
Right at the desk. There's a little corridor that goes down into their back room. But right as you turn that corner, there's a wire basket right there that says Go TV on it.
And you edit. I'm sorry. You edit the content for. I mean, you screen these shows obviously for vulgarity or
Oh yeah,
inappropriate content or whatever.
Yeah, we have not had any of that happen. Also, I want to stress one thing. Town and village meetings are not edited at all and are not allowed to be edited at all.
Wow.
But we do edit like shows like the show about the interior decorating, or else we would have a 15-hour one show, and then and it gives you the opportunity. I was somewhere today and they were videotaping, and the guy was very nervous, and I said, don't worry about it. Say it, and then say, let me say it again, and then they'll take that other part out. It's the miracles of it. But so yes, but we do watch everything. We have not had that issue as of yet, but we would definitely watch that. And also, we're not going to put like nudity on or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right? We expect people to respect common courtesies.
Also, I think you covered Cedar Lane Art Center.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We covered Cedar. We did a really cute show on Cedar Lane Art Center, and they did a great job there. We've done different departments. We did a fabulous one of the water filtration plants because we were confident that 90% of the people didn't even know where their water came from, but they know it didn't come. They know it came from a reservoir. They just weren't sure where that reservoir was. So with the dam reinforcement that they just did and everything, we did a great video. Paul, who's coming up behind me with another topic, and Andy Teese did a fantastic job at explaining this is your water and showing the different things. So we do occasionally we work with the municipalities too to do different departments and to accent on so that people see what's going on without having to go out and scour the village or town looking for stuff. So yeah.
Well, I just have to say I'm very appreciative of your reinvigorated Go TV because I think public access television is a great opportunity, and the fact that you're also posting it on YouTube is another way to get the message out there for people who don't really know what their government does and also who don't know what kinds of events are around. So I think it's a great opportunity, and you've done such a great job.
Thank you.
Taking the bull by the horns as you love to do.
And there's just one other thing that I want to talk briefly about, and that is we do kind of infomercials, okay? And again, we have not film students, but film school graduates doing our videotaping. We do have a payroll. We do have taxes. We do have everything that any other 501c3 has. So you're not allowed to do commercials on public access television, but you certainly can teach someone how to do something. So, for example, this week we filmed Mike Risco giving a guitar lesson. Okay? So he wasn't selling his store. He wasn't doing anything like that, but he decided he would sponsor that infomercial. Okay? So we have that. It gives us, we're looking for bigger sponsors, like the retirement program are looking for major sponsors. And what I learned when I had my couple of meetings over at Pleasantville Television is they really look for big sponsors. Like I'm looking for these little guys, and they're looking for these big sponsors. So there is ability. If you go on Channel 13, Channel 8, Channel 21 on television, you'll see sponsored by this foundation or sponsored by this company and stuff like that. So we do have that. So on right now, Mike Risco is not on yet. We just filmed that week. It's a great little guitar lesson though. But we did have one infomercial about Neil Wolf telling us how to buy boots. So he does a infomercial, and he and He and Anthony do an infomercial. It's hysterical. They trade places, being the customer and the retailer, to show you the difference in the different booths that you can have.
And what are the other two channels? You talked about the government channels,
Right.
78 and 43, and the other ones are 70.
74 is your Cablevision public access television,
Public, right? So
right,
there's
with
public.
40 being your FiOS. And 77 is your education. And I apologize, I don't know what the education is on
42.
FiOS. I don't have FiOS. So.
42.
42?
Okay.
Okay.
So it's
Thank you, ma'am.
74 is for public,
Right.
and you will catch a few of the government meetings on there.
Yes.
Because, as you mentioned, 78 is government.
Right.
And 77 is
Education.
and then 40 is public, 42 is education, and 43 is government for
Right.
BIOS.
Right. So it's pretty exciting. All right. So
And I'm pretty sure that PEG money, as we call it,
yes,
purchased these microphones.
yes. Pig money can
The equipment,
these cameras.
the cameras that are here,
Mhm.
purchase the equipment back there, purchases the upgraded equipment in our recreation department, pays for the studio at the DPW,
Right.
and
And our cameras, our cameras that can go remote.
cameras at the courthouse,
Cameras at the courthouse.
which
Right.
we also use for our government.
It's
meetings.
all what they call capital expenditures, so it's hard costs,
But
right?
I just want to identify
Yeah.
so the money that comes in, while most of it is some of it goes to pay for equipment that then gets handed over to GoTV. Other money also pays for
We do not
equipment
take.
that we use
Right.
to cablecast or
We no longer get any money directly from the municipalities. What we do is we put a request in for purchasing of equipment. So I just requested recently that 2 of those microphones that come off the cameras, because you can get much better audio that way, we get that. So we do that. We don't take, the only time that we get money for the municipalities is when we bill for services rendered already. So now we're just finishing up our January billing. And so that, yeah,
and we appreciate the timely billing. That's something new. We haven't
it's
been able to
fabulous,
count
isn't
on
it?
I'm very happy that we can count on that now. The other thing I just want to mention, just again to clarify for the public, that the money that we receive, the franchise fees, does not pay for that. It doesn't pay for staffing. So it doesn't pay for videographers. We're not supposed to use it for that. It's only for these
No,
other
that's
costs.
PEG money. There's 2 different bundles of money. You can use your franchise fees, I believe, for look at your franchise fee. You know, but what happens? PEG and yeah, they are. They're 2 different things. But what you can do is, PEG money can only be used for hard costs. Franchise fees are different.
Okay.
But as long as you stay within your budget, you're still in a budget of the franchise fees that are collected.
Okay.
Right? So,
Okay. All right.
thank
then.
you.
Thank you very. Does anybody else have any questions for?
I just want to say that, we don't ever think about how, we get these things done. And there's a myriad of volunteers and people who are really committed to making sure that we have access to this information. So it's something I think we take for granted, but it's so wonderful to know how it works. And it's so good to see such an enthusiastic leader taking charge here. And, we've had the service for a long time in Ossining.
And we've had some very, very dedicated people running GoTV in the
Yep.
past. And sometimes it just gets to be slightly overwhelming because
Volunteers.
it's volunteer. The only people that are actually paid are the videographers.
So thank you for that, and again, thank you for reconstituting an active board, because I think that's really
Yes.
important and critical to have that good oversight, as well as the good ideas that come with it. And we're very appreciative also to Jackie Weir.
Yes, for all the service that
Yes,
she
for
gave. Yeah.
her many years of service, and she definitely burnt out a little bit because she was doing it for a long time,
And
and
sometimes very
it's-
much alone.
very time consuming. And it was, I think, very difficult, and we're so appreciative for all her years that she did give to us, and also Sue, for you stepping in and helping out when we needed to. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so we had a late-breaking addition to our agenda this evening. Our town village engineer, Paul Frioli, was available on rather short notice to join us for a quick discussion on the continued planning of our McCarthy Drive capital project. We are hoping to restore and improve this town road, including drainage, resurfacing, and upgrading the water main underneath the road. We're shooting for 2019, which will better support the entire neighborhood. Paul and I, along with Michael G. O'Connor, our highway superintendent, visited the site with our consulting engineer, Dolph Rotfeld, last Thursday. And Paul, where are we as of today? Please give us a brief synopsis.
Thank you. Hopefully the impromptu presentation isn't reflected in the quality of the presentation. But yeah, I would like to do that. But I think by way of, for the benefit of your new Councilwoman Shaw, welcome, good luck, and a recap of what happened a few months back when we met in the police court facility on Spring Street when we first talked about the project where the residents of McCarthy Drive were present. I'd like to do that quick snippet of that again before I go into where we are today, if that's okay. So when we met, your council had reviewed the contest that McCarthy Drive should be considered a town road, and after research on the records and the easements and so forth, it was deemed takeoverable, if that's a word, by the town. So,
not so much takeoverable as it was already ours.
Okay.
Just to be clear, we're not taking over a road.
It wasn't a choice.
It was deemed ours.
Better yet.
Okay.
So with that in mind, it was deemed appropriate to improve that road to appropriate standards of a town road, because what it was an access road for lot by lot development that kind of morphed into this town road legally. So now we need to go in there and do the things that are a component of a formal town road, including appropriate sub-base, drainage, possible right-of-way work, and what have you. So we met with, we made that presentation, and the town residents had a myriad of comments that ranged everywhere from we want everything done to the fullest extent, including possible increased utilities with gas and lighting and you know, everything in the kitchen sink, all the way down to we like the road the way it is, we don't want you to touch it at all. So I think we're going to come somewhere in the middle. So we had a couple of visits to the site, as the supervisor referenced, and while that was going on, we also had retained a surveyor, and that's what was approved that night, to go out and survey the parcels, to do some topography, to give us an idea of some of the grading limitations that we might have, and then where everything stood with respect to the actual right-of-way that existed through that corridor in relation to the private parcels. So again, this is where the impromptu-ness is going to show. I already talked to Tom on how to best hold this drawing for the public, and I'm going to point to it so you guys can see it. I want to talk about some points on that drawing.
Need help?
No, I think I'm okay. I'm just going to pop that out of there. No, I think I'm okay.
Maybe.
Do you have that, Tom? Great. Okay, so, you know, the survey to encompass the roughly 2,000 linear feet of McCarthy Drive from Stormytown Road down to the end where it's really unfinished road and it was really just gravel, where it kind of interfaces with the end of Incognito so everybody can get their bearings, as well as the end of Knollwood, which for those people that are familiar with that corridor, it's really parallel to Knollwood, and at the end of McCarthy Drive is really the through probably about a 100-foot utility easement is the end of Incognito cul-de-sac. So as you can see, the right-of-way, when surveyed with the adjoining private parcels, is a lot wider than the existing road right now. The road, if you roughly scale it off the survey here, is slightly over 20 feet, and that's pretty much that maintains continuity from Stormytown all the way to the end, where it becomes just a gravel road and an item 4 road that the town highway guys have been maintaining as necessary because of the washout that occurs in that area. But it's roughly a 20 to 25-foot road all the way through. If you were going to do a road by today's standards, you might shoot for a 30-foot right-of-way, which would allow for ample parking on the street and and the like. But this is not really necessary in that area. And I think after our visit with the supervisor and the superintendent of highways, I think everybody's in concurrence there. But there are some issues that we have to consider. There are some rather large trees, which I'm not sure you can really pick them up on the drawing, Tom. But the survey reflects trees in excess of 20 inches in diameter. That's a significant mature tree. And there are numerous trees in the right-of-way that would get in the way if you went to that full width of a 30-foot road. There's also existing underground utility, electric utility, and cable utility that exists in the right-of-way that would have to be possibly moved because the utility access boxes are presently sitting in the lawns of the yards. Still in the right-of-way, but in the lawns. But if you were going to widen the road, you would end up moving those. So that would be increased cost. There's also some privately installed landscape details, anywhere from very small little curbing details all the way through formal entry statements with lighting and masonry details that are well into the right-of-way now. So that was a consideration that we wanted to bring forth to you guys to chew on a little bit, so you can get your arms around really the scope of this project as it exists as a road project. But there's other components to the project as well that also have things for you to chew on as you think about the scope. The only scope you really don't have to think about as a town board is something that the village board has committed to, and we've discussed this with the water superintendent as well. There is roughly 2,200 linear feet of water main from Stormytown connected all the way to the water main on Incognito that runs primarily in the existing paved areas of McCarthy, but then runs through the utility easement, which is wooded, to the Incognito. As a matter of course, water mains are always best when they're loops, are looped together and there's no dead ends, so that's why that's a nice installation to have, because it really improves the quality of the water because the water is constantly flowing. So we want to maintain that loop, and because that area has been problematic for us with water main breaks, the village will receive, if you take this work on, an economy of scale to some extent where we would pay for the water main replacement component of the project. As is formalized in the IMA agreement. So again, that's a pretty significant expense that would be undertaken by the village's water fund, and I'm just guesstimating, again, even including the economy scale, that can be upwards of $750,000 out of the village's water fund. So, but it's a better product at the end of the day. It'll be a less long-term operating maintenance cost for us, and it'll be a higher quality water because it'll be a new 8-inch water main.
I just want to know, there must be houses in there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have to buy property, or what are you going to do?
I'm going to get to that a little bit
Okay.
towards the end, because I just wanted to really get the utility components out. So we talked about the road, and I think it's consensus that maybe with some, as we formalize things, maybe with some enhanced parking restrictions to make sure we don't create an access issue for fire safety and what have you. We're going to do what we can. Obviously, you can't build things to, today's standards with like a 60-foot radius in the cul-de-sac and things like that. But you could make a bad situation as best as possible, particularly now since it is our road. We want to do the best we can. But we're also going to be cognizant of what the residents have there now, what our true needs are, and the actual use of the road. It is what it is. It's a dead end, so it's not a lot of through traffic there. So I think we'll be able to get away with that while still building the road proper to today's standards, i.e. the sub-base, curbing, binder, top course, and then the last component is the drainage. And I was saving that to the last by design because I want to flip to another drawing here.
I have one utility question. Did the residents, we were talking to them about the gas, is that not a part of the project? Or it's too hard to coordinate with the water main?
Again, I didn't talk about that with the superintendent. He was going to reach out for Con Ed when we last talked. I'm not really sure if he's heard back and where that stands. It could or it could not. That remains to be seen.
Okay, a resident. Yeah, a resident asked me a few days
We
ago.
haven't heard back from him.
Okay.
So as we flip through to get to the last page I want to see, you can see basically you have the same, same size lots on the western side, and then the same size lots on the eastern side, and they kind of run the course all the way down to the end, where we get into the issue where I'm going to discuss the drainage. All right, so if you
Tom, can you see that?
You zoomed in there? Okay, great. So as you can see, this is can you pass me that clip? Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll be able to read.
There you go.
So you can see where McCarthy ends over there. This area over here is really where the pavement limit is, and the rest of this is all gravel in item 4. And then you can see our utility easement that I referenced earlier that goes to the end of Incognito, and you can see our water main there that runs through. We have, I guess, one thing the survey picked up and one thing we asked to be expanded when we did our last walkthrough is there is an easement that runs one lot back that's on the left of this drawing, and is also reflected on the other drawing. Excuse me 1 minute. There is an easement that runs back. We don't know the details of that easement. We're going to research that a little bit. I've already solicited that research from your town planning and building department, so that's forthcoming information. But the main thing that is going to really make this road an appropriate road, as in every road, is drainage, appropriate drainage. We can do things if we narrow the scope to just McCarthy, very similar, and I'll reference something we did for the town a few years back on Cedar Lane, where we realized that we had a large drainage issue on Cedar Lane. A lot of it come from McCarthy, and a lot of it come from the road itself, and it was inundating the low point on Cedar Lane down through 2 village parcels down into those condo areas over there. So if everybody remembers that project. So I think some time ago it was originally presented as a very expensive drainage study, which also was, which they thought the finished product was going to be a multi-million-dollar drainage project, running it and rerouting it all the way down to the state right-of-way, all the way down to the Croton River. The solution to that was not that. It was capture the water in that area as best as possible, do some improvements to where this water, really the genesis of this water, which was a lot of leader pipes going right into the road, and having people connect those, which we did for them in the project, to the existing storm systems in the village and or town, depending on where the houses were. That took care of a lot of the problem. And then we also created what we called retention under the road. So we dug up that whole area of Cedar Lane, and we put big basins, or basically like a serpentine system of large pipes under the road, which took that rush of storm and essentially held it and kind of dissipated its energy, and then allowed it a metered flow or a controlled flow to go to where the rush used to go. That took care of everything. And we did that entire project, including soft costs, for less than $150,000. You could look at it in that fashion. This is obviously a lot larger scale. That was a very small area of Cedar Lane. This is 2,000 linear feet. I think the whole disturbance area on Cedar Lane was probably 500 feet in either direction. So, this is a much more significant project that is actual full reconstruction of a road, the water main replacement, and the relocation of all those utilities. That's the least of the projects. It only gets enhanced if you do lighting, gas, or anything else. Any curbs other than blacktop curbs, it can start to add up on you. But the biggest component, again, getting back to the drainage, is the only formal easement we saw coming off McCarthy was between the second to last lot and the last lot. I'm sorry, the third to last lot and the second to last lot. There's a utility easement, but we don't have a lot of details on it, which I'm researching. And then we also want to look at the easements that exists on Knollwood, at the end of Knollwood, there may or may not be some type of utility easement that comes off McCarthy that we might be able to utilize for drainage. But we also don't know the extent of the easements or even the infrastructure that exists for the drainage beyond that. So it would be a little short-sighted to say, sure, let's capture everything and send it there, because we don't know what exists down that way. So we're doing some additional survey. We're doing some additional property study information to find out what exists behind all these yards. And it might boil down to actually going out there and doing a field survey of what exists, because in discussing with the highway superintendent, his druthers kind of lean towards let's touch it and improve everything. And this project can literally grow from let's do McCarthy and handle the drainage there and make a bad condition pretty good, or if since McCarthy, it could just build into Rutledge, which can build into Incognito and White Horse, right? White Birch, rather. Oof. White Birch all the way down to Cedar Lane. It could really have no endpoint until you get to an outlet like a pond or a receiving stream. So, we have some decisions to make, some value engineering discussions to have, and then ultimately a budget discussion to have. So let us get the easement documentation in place. We'll talk a little bit about what can and can't be done on the road, and if we can do some drainage improvements on the road that includes retention similar to Cedar Lane, that might be allow us to lessen the scope downstream behind all those private houses. We don't know what exists back there. I could tell you there's for lack of a technical term, there's kind of some hodgepodge back there. Some people have it covered. Some people have open channel. Some people have structures on the proposed and or existing easement. So there's a lot of things that we don't know about back there. But suffice to say, we're still on track to fix McCarthy. It's just the component of drainage for McCarthy that is still the unknown right now, because it's really not, the limit of that work isn't defined yet. That's going to take place over the next few weeks, but that is also the main reason why you don't have the other thing we said in the courthouse when we met, we were going to get this survey done, meet with a consultant engineer who was going to do the design work to put out this biddable document. We can't procure a bid document. We can't procure a engineering proposal from an engineering firm yet because we haven't determined the scope. But that engineer is assisting us with the scope. Now, obviously, they would love a large scope because it means a large contract, but they don't control that. But they are there from the beginning to kind of, understand where we go from there.
Your thoughts are bringing the drainage toward Knollwood as opposed to toward Cedar, which already has a problem.
The contour really dictates that we go.
Yeah, that's a bit of an issue because I'm going to be transparent. I'm a Knollwood resident, so my understanding is that when this McCarthy predated us moving in, but we've been there a long time, that when McCarthy was in, it resulted in drainage problems for everybody on Knollwood Drive because Knollwood sits down from McCarthy. So I think it will be, whatever you do is going to be a concern for Knollwood too, because we've been living with that issue for.
We are well aware. I think
Yeah.
a large part of the drainage issues on either side of McCarthy, one being Cedar Lane,
Right.
and the other side being Knollwood, is
Incognito also, because they're also having drainage problems.
Incognito gets
Yeah.
the end. Yeah. Is the fact that McCarthy is essentially the high point.
Yep.
Right, so it literally crests the hill there.
Yep.
So the water goes left, right, or north, right? So and that's just the water flows downhill, and I think at a minimum we're looking to capture it, retain it, and direct it.
Mhm.
One of the things that the engineer, consultant engineer said to me is that, you don't want to start messing with where you're, start redirecting the water, in some crazy place. I thought the idea that you had of capturing it and metering and controlling the flow sounds like a better solution than starting to redirect where it's all going. So you kind of try to mitigate what's coming off right now.
Well,
I'm with that.
And I think
Right.
fortunate for us, and I don't want to say this for sure yet, but I will say a little with a little caution. I think that existing easement that we see on the drawings here is the actual drainage ditch that you see at the end of Rutledge. So that seems to be where the easement exists. So there must have been some mindset there to have that for McCarthy. But again, until we have that formalized and blessed, then I'm a little hesitant to put together a engineering proposal to show to you guys to create bid documents.
Do you have questions, additional questions, concerns, or anything to raise at this time?
Any chance it can get down to Kilbrook? Behind Torview? Down that stream on the side and down? Is that where the drainage? Never mind, I'll talk to you.
Yeah,
'Cause,
I'm not
you
following
fixed that
you there.
leak of what was it, 10,000 gallons a day? I mean, we know the stream can handle it. You fixed that leak.
yeah, that leak was from the main that is right in
That's
that
going down
right
that
away.
same
Yeah.
area. So the bottom of the hill, there's a stream, Torview, that parallel to the back parking lot, Torview, that goes into the Kilbrook over there. So that's an out to the river. Out to the river.
You're saying from the
Yeah,
top of
I
Situate?
understand what you're saying. I think there's some more options.
There's better options.
Yeah,
Okay.
better and less expensive options than
Okay.
directing it there.
I'm just, the natural waterways that I know of. Okay. Interested to see what comes up.
Yep.
That is study.
No. Thank you very much for coming on such short notice and giving such a great update. We
I
really
liked your pictures.
Appreciate it. All right. Yes, and I think the village trucks were out getting the roads ready. So I know that I'm sure that our town trucks are going to be out there too if they haven't already. And thanks for that as well.
We had our parks pre-salted yesterday. I was very impressed.
Okay. All right. So next up, Maddie Zahat, our budget director, personnel director. We are going to talk a little bit about a letter that I received from Dutchess County Executive Mark Molinaro to talk about Think Differently campaign. This campaign acknowledges that there are people among us who think differently and who deserve the same consideration as respect as anyone else. I think I speak for this board when I say we have a great track record for supporting initiatives that help make our services more accessible to all of our residents. So I was hoping to discuss whether the board would be willing to pass a resolution about Think Differently to support making Ossining only the second community in Westchester to do so. Maddie, you're going to talk a little bit more about this with us.
I will, yes. Thank you. So everybody has in front of them a packet that has 3 sheets in it. So the first one is some information that we were able to find through County Executive Molinaro's website about this particular initiative. The next page is sort of a flyer about some of the community events that they've been doing in Dutchess County. And then finally, a copy of the form resolution that they had suggested that the board might want to adopt. So basically, when we're talking about thinking differently in this scenario, we're talking about, generally speaking, folks who are somewhere on the autism spectrum. So making things more accessible to folks who are classified in that way. And there are a lot of really interesting ways that they've done it in other communities. So many of the things are similar to what the supervisor has been working on in terms of healthy communities, for planning for healthy communities. So for example, there was a project featuring accessible infrastructure, so beyond the traditional ramp and curb cuts, that helped to make sports fields and playgrounds more accessible to folks. A local movie theater offering free Saturday morning movies to families with children with special needs, lowering the volume and raising the lights inside the theater to accommodate children with sensory issues. Doing crisis intervention training and mental health first aid, which we already know has a pretty good presence in our community. I know that Alice Jazzo from Communities That Care has been a big advocate of that. So basically trying to find other ways that we can make our community more approachable for folks on the autism spectrum.
Yeah,
And sort of encouraging our local businesses to do the same. So that was the other part. So if the board is on board with it.
I can just read their suggested resolution really quickly for everybody, since I know this was also kind of a late addition to our work session. Their suggested resolution resolves that the town of Austining, we were to adopt it, residents and business owners adopt the Think Differently initiative to assist individuals with special needs and their families. And whereas the Think Differently initiative is about promoting awareness and acceptance of all people and advocating for the inclusion of all individuals living on the autism spectrum and with special needs. And whereas our state and communities are stronger because of our diversity and differences. And whereas according to the Center for Disease Control, over 55 million people, or approximately 19% of Americans, have a type of disability or special need. And whereas for some people with special needs, the very things that make them unique can also make them keep them on the sidelines, separate them from those who might not understand their differences or uniqueness. And whereas it's important to promote and provide guidance to those with special needs on how to access publicly supported services available to them in the community. And whereas it's important to encourage and educate the community and businesses on ways they can make facilities and services more accessible, and how to train staff to welcome and support special needs customers and coworkers. And whereas the goal of this initiative is to provide a supportive and inclusive environment for individuals of all abilities by supporting community events that expand family-friendly opportunities for people with special needs and their families. And whereas adopting the Think Differently initiative is an important statement that our town officials, business owners, and residents can make to show their support for the differently abled children and adults with special needs and their families. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Austining residents and business owners adopt the Think Differently initiative so that all are better prepared to communicate with, provide for, and support those living on the autism spectrum and with special needs.
Okay, I have a couple of things.
Okay.
I think we can't really resolve that the residents and business owners. So we're going to resolve that we're going to encourage the residents and business owners to, not just the town of Austining residents and business owners, to adopt it. Isn't there an encourage missing, or a
Yeah, there's a
require,
word.
or
There's a
something
word missing there. Yes, there's definitely a word missing.
Okay, I would go
And
with
when I
encourage.
read
I don't
it, I
think
actually-
we can
yeah.
require, but I would encourage. And I think we generally try to do this, and I'm all for trying to include as many people as possible. When we did our Halloween thing, we had some of the teal pumpkins and other items available for children with allergies and children with other challenges. So, I mean, I think it's great that our community's open. There's no cost associated with this, just that we're going to be ourselves and appreciate diversity, or is there a cost associated with this for our town?
Not as far as I have been able to establish. There's no cost associated whatsoever.
It's just, I mean,
it's
it's sort of
just-
an awareness program.
It's
So,
awareness program.
you know,
Okay.
so whenever we have a change that the board is looking to make in policy, just sort of another lens to view that policy through.
Exactly.
It's just a goal to be more inclusive.
Yeah,
To be,
which
and
I think is
inclusive and aware. I think.
absolutely. I think that's what Austening's all about. So.
Right. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea. Just go with it. That's all I can say.
More teal pumpkins.
All right.
Okay, so we'll customize it a little bit for what we would like it to read, and then you'll see it next week. Thank you.
We have a really good SEPTA group in the schools. Especially, I mean,
Special
you might
education.
see what they suggest to add or
Sure.
not add.
I'm sure they'd be very happy to hear that we're considering adopting this. So that's a great idea. We can reach out to them.
Now, one thing I'd like to ask though, this is about the kids, right?
It's all people, not just children.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah.
So there are some
Oh,
grown-ups.
sure. That's what happens. Kids grow up.
Theory.
Theory. No, so absolutely, it's for all people who are on the autism spectrum or have special needs.
Okay. As long as it includes everyone.
Yes, it does. All right. So, without further ado, may I have a motion to adjourn into our special meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. So we're gonna
just-
start off our special meeting with
Yeah, I'm just going to do a quick roll call. Councilwoman Shaw,
Present.
Councilwoman Dottori,
Present.
Councilman Wilcher,
Present.
Councilwoman Feldman,
Present.
and Supervisor Levenberg.
Great. Okay, so just a quick update. I had a very informative day this past Saturday at Bedford 2020's Climate Change Summit, where I learned, among other things, about their Meatless Monday initiative and the great impact that beef consumption has on greenhouse gas emissions. One of the amazing facts that I learned is that even if we were to reduce our carbon emissions to zero through all these other means that we've been working on, electric vehicles, get down our, use all LED lights, use all sustainable energy sources to, power our lives. That still wouldn't be anything if we don't reduce our beef consumption, our consumption of ruminants, because ruminants emit methane from their gas emissions that have come out both ends, and apparently they're coming out of their mouths worse than coming out of their other end through natural processes. So sheep, goats, and cattle all emit gases, and unfortunately our trajectory right now is going like this in terms of our consumption of ruminants and mostly beef. And what I also learned is, many of you know, I like to think of myself as a locavore, and I personally only eat like grass-fed beef because for a variety of reasons, some of which has to do with the environment, but also that's how cows are supposed to eat. But even grass-fed beef, in fact, supposedly grass-fed beef is worse because it takes up more land. More land.
So let me ask you though, if there's the ruminants are the problem, shouldn't we be eating more of them?
No, yes, good idea. No, because the more ruminants that you produce to feed,
Breeding them for consumption.
Right,
I understand.
Breeding them for consumption. So what has started as an initiative, and this is worldwide, it's not just here, is to start just chipping away at our consumption. Because as I was starting to say, even if you had all of our other carbon emissions down here, and we need to be, say, here to keep our temperature, our climate level, temperature down here. With our increased beef consumption, we'd be here just with the beef consumption. Like we're already above or at the level of that 2 degrees or 1.5 degree shift that we don't want to happen because with global warming. So what can we do? We can start leveling off our beef consumption and or reducing it. And how can we do it? Many communities are looking to adopt a Meatless Monday, which basically asks people to not give up everything, but essentially take beef predominantly out of their diets for 1 day a week. That's it. Not 1 day a week. Not asking them to give it up altogether or forever or whatever. Just 1 day a week. So anyway, it sounds like something that I think is interesting that we should consider maybe promoting, because again, all of these efforts that we are making to try to make our community more sustainable, they're nothing. And I learned from East Hampton or Southampton has actually set a goal of 0% carbon emissions in like 2030 or something. It's not that far off. And they're doing everything they can, but they also realize that once they get there, they have a lot farther to go because you have to kind of undertake this other campaign. So I just think that was really very, very interesting, and I want to share it with you, the board, as well as community, to start thinking about taking the challenge, the Meatless Monday Challenge. I think it starts now, and it goes through April 10th. There's like 10 weeks that you can take the Meatless Monday Challenge right now. I'm sure you can sign up online. I don't have all the information, but I'm going to get it and share it in the update. And I have signed up to take on that challenge with my husband.
Cheating, you're vegetarian.
I'm not.
Okay.
No, but 1 day a week. But yes, but 1 day a week is actually pretty easy for us. So we're gonna think about going beyond that for our next round. Since, like you said, I've already kind of do that anyway. But anyway, it's something to think about.
One thought I have is, isn't there, not in my religion, but isn't there like no beef, no meat on Fridays in
some cultures?
In some cultures. Would it just be easier to ask about Fridays, or are you trying to go for 2 days a week?
No. There's
I'm just asking.
There's evidence that people have an easier time making changes on Mondays. So there's a lot of thought and research that goes behind why they chose Mondays as the day to eliminate meat. And that's the easier day for people. Like that's when people start their diets. That's when they start, they make resolutions. It starts on Mondays. So for whatever reason, it's easier for people to change their habits on Mondays than any other day. And then they may fall off the wagon Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever, but back on Monday. So that's why they chose that as part of their campaign. It doesn't mean you can't pick another day if that's what works for you in your life, but that's what the campaign is. It's Meatless Mondays. So I can share more information with you and the community also in an update. Some more announcements. Saturday is going to be a very big day in our community. There's a lot of activities, specifically T-Town's Eagle Fest, which is not our community but our neighboring community. Starts off at 9 a.m. at Croton Point Park. Bring your family down to watch an eagle show, take a bird walk, participate in children's activities, and this year hear a fantastic musical performance, I'm sure, by the always fabulous Lilith Fair All-Star singer-songwriter and author Dar Williams. Not to be missed, later in the day, a history-only tour guided by her very own town historian Scott Craven, which kicks off at 2:30 p.m., which happens to be the last tour of the day. Get more information on this wonderful annual event, and I hope to see you all there by visiting www.ttown.org/events. Later that day, the Ossining Public Library will be celebrating a very special birthday. It's 125th. OPL will hold the kickoff celebration for a year of special programs and activities on Saturday, February 10th at 2 p.m. I hope you'll join us for the opening reception and also bring your kids and teens for a big party on Sunday, February 11th at 5:30 p.m.
I'm sorry. I was trying to turn it
It
off.
sounds so great. Whatever's happening. On Saturday night, you have two options. The Ray Blue Trio will be performing as part of Westchester Collaborative Theater's Jazz Masters series, beginning at 7:30 p.m. Doors open at 7. Come enjoy a night of smooth jazz at 23 Water Street for just $20 at the door. Otherwise, if you don't feel like sitting back and listening to music, you can head to Studio 95 at 95 Main Street for some Zumba. You could Zumba the night away from 6 to 8 p.m. to support the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Maddie, you joining me for that one?
I might.
Okay, we're going to be there. We're going to be there. We're going straight from the library over to Zumba. On the evening of Thursday, February 15th, join the Ossining documentary and discussion series at the Ossining Public Library for a screening of Soundtrack for a Revolution, which explores the civil rights struggle through the music of some of the most notable musicians of that era. The film begins at 7:30 p.m. and will be followed by a panel discussion featuring our very own local legend and folk vocalist, KJ Denner. See you at the Boudars Theater next Thursday for this special event. That same evening, the Ossining Historic Cemeteries Conservancy will be hosting a midwinter meetup at the Jug Tavern in Sparta. So, come learn what the OHCC has been up to and what they have planned for the warmer weather coming up. You'll even hear some local lore from Village of Ossining historian Dana White and Town of Ossining historian Scott Craven. The event begins at 7 p.m. RSVP by emailing ohcc10562@gmail.com. Light refreshments will be served. Saturday, February 17th will be another big day in Ossining as Galata House will hold their first Escape from Sing Sing Polar Plunge at our very own Lewis Angle Park. At 12 noon, folks who wish to donate to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society will rush into the Hudson for a quick dip, if it's not iced over, and be greeted with hot cocoa and coffee immediately afterwards. If it is iced over, just to let you know, the fire department will hose those crazy people down. Yes, I will be among those crazy people. Register yourself or your team by emailing galatahouse@gmail.com. Remember, you must bring your own towel and water shoes to participate.
And your doctor.
If you're ready to warm up later that night, Westchester Collaborative Theater will be hosting the KJ Denner Trio for a night of jazz at 23 Water Street. Also part of the Jazz Masters series. $20 at the door will buy you a night of great tunes and probably a story or two from KJ. Finally, I want to remind folks that our summer concert series will be here before you know it, and there is still time to throw your hat in the ring to be a performer.
Visit. Just the thought of doing that would be so horrifying for the town residents if I did that. So I'm sorry. I just thought that was funny.
So we'll
I'm not going to be
looking
throwing
forward
my hat in.
We'll be looking forward to hearing Karen sing.
No, you will not.
Sorry. Okay. Visit the Town of Ossining website before March 1st and find the Summer Concert Series band application on the left-hand side of the page. Fill out a few quick details about your act and hit submit. You will be hearing from us. I think March 2nd is the deadline for submissions for that. And then following that, we will make our determinations about which bands will be performing this summer. So we're looking forward to that as well. And that is it for my announcements. Does anybody else have any announcements?
I have one. The Ossining School District will be hosting an equity conference. They're calling it EquityCon, Advancing Equity in Schools. The conference will be on March 17th at AMD from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. They're encouraging people in the community to come out, whether it's students, parents, or just people in the community that are interested in racial justice in the school system. Also, they are looking for people to present or who want to be on panel discussions to fill out a form and submit their ideas if they want to participate or if they just have ideas. And all of that will be up on the town board website shortly.
Yes, we will put it out in the supervisor's update. And that actually reminds me, I was going to invite any of my colleagues on the board this Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. at Park School. They will be taking community members through an update of what the plans are for expanding Park School. I'm not able to attend, so I'm hoping one of you might be able to, but obviously
We have a previous commitment.
You both have previous commitment.
Well,
okay.
Westchester Municipal
Westchester
Officials
Municipal
Dinner.
Officials. Okay, so if anybody else would like to go, feel free. It starts at 6:30. Okay. Alrighty then. Yeah.
I was gonna go with the municipal officials, but
Oh, okay. All right. So I think that's
I have one.
okay. Go ahead.
On Thursday, February 22nd, IFCA, the Ossining Microphone, and Star of Bethlehem Church will be conducting it's a financial wellness seminar. So think of it as Weight Watchers for your wallet. So it's under our Credit Smarts programs, and it's going to be a fun-filled evening with refreshments and information on how to stay on top of your budget, how to stay away from credit scams, and improve your credit rating.
That's February 22nd.
At Star of Bethlehem Church
At what
on
time?
Spring Street at 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Wonderful. Fantastic. Anybody else have any other announcements or no? Okay. So I think we're going to get into the heart of our very short special meeting.
Whereas during the special meeting of the Town of Ossining Town Board on January 16th, 2018, the Town Board appointed Craig A. Stevens, Peekskill, as the Town Arborist for 2018, with a rate set at $50 per tree. And whereas upon further investigation and discussion with the Town Building Inspector, the rate should instead read $50 per visit. Therefore, be it resolved that Mr. Stevens' appointment shall be revised thusly and fee schedule interpreted accordingly.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
question. You said $50
Per visit.
per visit.
So,
Said it right.
yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
for example, if somebody says, I need to have a tree removed on my property, and so this gentleman will go out and he will look at it, and that will cost the applicant the same amount as if they said, I have 4 trees on my property that need to come down.
Just per visit. We had just incorrectly adopted it as per tree instead of per visit. So that is the correction. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby appoints Mateo Velardo, MEO, to the position of acting working foreman in the Town of Ossining Highway Department, effective January 31st, 2018, and until further notice, with an hourly compensation based on an annualized salary of $89,989.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So while we were very sad to say goodbye to our town highway foreman, John Martin, and senior man Rick Planamenta last Tuesday, we know that the department is in capable hands. Michael G. O'Connor has a very strong team, and we know that Mateo has already started to rise to the occasion and ensure that our residents continue to get the incredible service that they have come to expect. Mateo will be manning his first big snowstorm tomorrow, we think. So we are wishing him the very best. Any discussion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign an agreement with Galata House, Inc., Briarcliff Manor, New York, pertaining to the Escape from Sing Sing Polar Plunge, scheduled to take place at 12 noon at Lewis Engle Park on Saturday, February 17th, and outlining the operational expectations, insurance requirements, and obligations on the part of Galata House, as well as rules and regulations for participants as required by the Town of Ossining.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
So we discussed this proposed event at a special work session 2 weeks ago after some back and forth between our insurance agents and attorneys. Following that, we've come to an agreement, and we're excited for the Escape from Sing Sing Polar Plunge to benefit the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society via Galata House, which will take place, as I mentioned, at our very own Lewis Engle Park on Saturday, February 17th. Any further discussion about this? We like I said, we went back and forth, and we I think all in agreement. And if there's nothing else,
You're already signed up, so.
I haven't exactly signed up, but I've verbally committed. Let's just say
The
that.
rumor on the street.
Rumor on the
is-
streets, and we're all watching you.
What do you mean watching? You guys are going to be right there with me holding my hand.
No, we're not.
We're not.
Okay.
We'll hold the tower.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. I think that's it. Without further ado, may I have a motion to adjourn it into executive session for personnel, contracts, and advice of counsel?
I would like to say I admire the people who are running into the Hudson at this time of year to raise money for a very good cause, but I will not be joining.
You can
Okay.
be warm and write a check too.
Yeah, there you go. See, yeah, you could still be warm and write a check
Okay.
to the Glass House.
I would
Okay.
encourage you to do
Yes.
that. Okay. So may I have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So I'm wishing everyone a warm evening and a lovely week. While it's still unclear exactly what will happen tomorrow, you can bet that the first half of the day will be wet and icy, or snowy and icy. Please stay off the roads if you can avoid them. Let our highway and parks guys and the village guys do their work. Our first responders and your neighbors will thank you. Have a safe day and week, and good night, everyone.